we have quite a strong commitment from the GEF to run the global coordination platform. Of course, Melanie and her team have been doing a great job with various aspects of the work, creating knowledge documents, doing training on gender aspects and stakeholder engagement. But one of the main tasks also of this team is to coordinate and ensure that all the projects are talking to each other. So this is one of the first calls we had. We had a few calls before, but not all the projects were launched. And actually, at the moment, the last one, the Islands Atlantic, is still being in inception phase. But now that we are all in implementation, we are all creating knowledge and collaboration between the countries in our own regions. We also need to share it with the global islands community. So I will not say too much more. Thank you again, and wish you a good meeting.
Thanks, Ludo, very much. And Anil, can I pass the floor to you for some remarks from Jeff?
Yes, good. I guess it's good day everywhere. Greetings from Nairobi. I'll be brief and just to maybe reiterate some of Ludo's points. You know, having programs are an important way to bring a diversity of experiences and projects and lessons together so that they can benefit as many countries as we can. And for this program, with the last edition of the Atlantic SIDS, we now have 33 countries within this program, which makes it one of the largest chemicals and waste programs in terms of geographic scope. It spans from end to end. And so we look forward to really getting the teams together, working together and talking together. And so this type of meeting that we're having today is critical as we move forward towards through the implementation of the program. It's important because we're geographically separate, and so it's necessary that every effort to coordinate is made. And in that coordination and communication, it's not only among us as agencies, the GEF and executing agencies. It's also important, actually it's critically important, that the project team staff are routinely communicating and coordinating with their government counterparts as well. That's the only way we're going to transfer knowledge that we're generating from these projects to the government so that they can take further action and future action on areas that are important to islands in terms of chemicals and waste management. So I would like to see as we go forward, we codify our meetings, make sure that we do them fairly regularly, ensure that there's a check-in that happens, and then there's some very process stuff that's required in terms of quarterly reporting, annual reporting. I'll remind you all that the annual report is due for the program. So and getting those things in trade. But I think one of the most important things is that you ensure that your government counterparts are fully aware of the projects, the process, the progress, and so that they can also be able to speak intelligently when they go to COPs in terms of their decision making as well. So that's all I would like to say here. I have to actually run back to another contact group. But I wish you a good meeting. Irina will be here from the team here in UNA to follow the meeting from here. So thanks so much and have a really good meeting.
Thanks very much, Anil. Okay, so on with our agenda then. I'll give you a quick overview of today's 2-hour meeting. We've heard the welcome remarks from Anil and from Ludo. We're going to be having some presentations from each of the regional child projects, letting us know what they're up to and how the progress is going. We'll then move on to some project updates from the CCKM team, updating you on our work over the last 12 months. We'll then move on to some items for program coordination group attention, and then to the closure of the meeting. Next slide, please. So because this is only our second program coordination group, I thought it was useful just to let you know why we're here. As we all know, the Jeff Islands is a multi-agency initiative. UNEP's the lead agency responsible for overall islands programmatic coordination, and the CCKM project supports programmatic coordination. The program coordination group monitors the overall progress of the islands program, and that's what we're here to do today. And it also acts as a steering committee for CCKM that reviews budget amendments and oversees our project progress. Program coordination group members include the implementing agencies of the Islands Program, IDB, FAO, UNDP, and UNEP, as well as the executing agencies, BCRC and SPREP, as well as co-financing partners. Next slide, please. So now I'm very pleased to hand the floor to the first regional child project to present today, and that's the Caribbean Child Project. So over to you, Rachel, Jewel, and Oksana in the FAO office. Next slide, please.
Intro and then we'll do the presentation. All things, yeah, that's fine. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Great. So I don't know if Ludo, you want to say something, because it's like a joint project of UNEP FAO, and you have the bigger part of it. I mean, we are just 1/3. No.
Anyone from the UNEP side? No. Okay, go ahead, Oksana. I think that's fine.
Okay, thanks. Great. Won't be speaking on the part of UNEP, but on the part of FAO. This is now we are fully on board with the BCRC. This is our first mission for them to be an FAO. We are actually pulling everything around right now in order to comprehensively move further. The objective of that specific part is to reduction of HHPs in islands, and the activities would be which we will be going through, would be presented by the BCRC. So just to give you a bit of the snapshot, so what we are also aiming right now here is that having a full picture on the update, since 2-3 years has been changing environment. So we'd have full picture on the update, what is right now from the side of FAO interaction on the co-financing projects are happening in the region. So now I will pass it to Rachel. Oh, Jewel, sorry.
Okay. Just before we start the presentation, sorry, to Melanie and Clara, we were asking if it's possible to give us the permissions to share on this end, because there is a slide missing from our current slide deck, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. So I will stop sharing my screen, and I think you have the right to share. You should have it.
No, I don't actually, sorry.
Okay. You mean Espace Gabon? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see a share screen button?
I can make you, I don't know.
Oh, that should be fine. It says Espace Gabon is the co-host now, so you should be able to share.
No, but it need to be to Rachel directly. Not to Espace Gabon. It should be to Rachel directly.
I'm sorry. My apologies. I didn't understand.
I think it's good there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe?
Okay. Right. We're doing the presentation. Sorry, I have to look this way.
Yeah.
We're doing the presentation jointly. I hope you're hearing me. And maybe a recommendation, if I may, Melanie, is maybe allow the Pacific colleagues to present first because of the time difference in future. Yeah, so we'll just talk quickly about the overview of the Islands Caribbean, and then I think from the status of the activities will really be Rachel to deal with, and yeah, admin. And so I think all of us know this slide. It's very complicated for us in the Caribbean because the execution for us is not only for the UNEP FAO project, it's also for the UNEP project, and then it's also for the IDB project. So there are several GEF codes there. And the first project with UNEP and FAO tackles 9 countries in the Caribbean. And then the second project, which is UNEP solely, tackles 3 countries. The IDB project tackles 10 countries. So that's what that map tries to show you. So we have, you'll hear more about this, but just like what Oksana said, is that we're closer to finalizing the agreement with the IDB. And we have some work to do as it relates to terms of reference development. And hopefully the IDB will be signing the contract with us soon, as we are executing a certain part of the project for them. Okay? Yeah. So, Erman. So I think Erman is on the call.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I thought I was going to present the IDB part, but.
So yes, you are.
Yes,
you are.
Okay. Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you. Now, thank you, Joel. Just very quickly, as you know, in late 2021, we approved the IDB Child Project, which is called the Caribbean Incubator Facility. And basically, the main goal of this child project in the Caribbean is to foster private sector investment in the hazardous chemicals and waste management agenda. No? And that's why we structure the facility in these 5 components that you see. The first one is basically to advance policy and regulation that could actually create an enabling environment for the private sector to invest in this agenda. Then, very importantly, in component 2, what we're trying to do through that component is to improve the bankability of these projects. As you know, for institutions such as the IDB or anyone to invest and to finance, we need bankable projects. So that component 2 basically targets that gap that exists in the Caribbean and in the sector. And then the third component is trying to engage small and medium-sized private sector entities in this agenda. And we're talking about SMEs, we're talking about startups, innovating and doing something around chemicals and hazardous waste. The fourth component is very connected to the previous one, but instead of working with small companies, it's working with large corporations, trying to unlock investments from those types of companies, from the hospitality industry, from the tourism industry, from the agribusiness industry, etc. And then a final component, which basically aims to systematize, lessons learned and create to the knowledge agenda of the islands program globally, not only in the Caribbean. No? And as Joel was saying, for components 1, 2, and 5, the executing agency and the partnership we're going to be building is with BCRC. So BCRC will be the executing agency for components 1, 2, and 5, which is, again, creating this policy, regulatory, legal enabling environment for the private sector to participate and invest and basically improve the bankability of projects. So we have basically that project structured. In terms of the update of that, we're just waiting for some bureaucracy to take place, which is for the IDB to approve a project, we need non-objection letters from countries. So we're in the process of getting those letters from the beneficiary countries. Once we have that good to go from these countries, we will be basically able to approve this operation and begin implementing through BCRC. And here you can see some of the activities that we have identified. And very important, something that Anil mentioned, this is not something IDB and BCRC made up in our offices. This was a very intensive consultation and validation process with sector agencies and government agencies. So everything you see here basically reflects priorities at the country level and at the regional level. And just to highlight a few, for example, one of the things countries prioritize is to develop a PPP framework for investing in chemicals and hazardous waste. Also to identify some financing mechanisms for some specific waste streams, such as used oils, used tires, and some e-waste. Also some specific country requests to work on some policy frameworks for some specific waste streams again, such as e-waste in Barbados. Also Guyana, strengthen their environmental protection regulations. Belize is also thinking about creating an environmental court, and they also need to review their hazardous and chemicals management bill. So a few things that we expect will create this regulatory environment for the private sector to kick in and to unlock investment and to engage in this sector and to develop sustainable business models. No? On component 2, this is the bankability one. There you can see there are some engineerings and waste management plans. Some countries such as Belize, they have some hazardous cells or cells for the management of hazardous waste. And so we're trying to basically create a pipeline of investments at the public sector level that could unlock these investments in these countries. Now, in component 5, as we said, systematize some of the learnings. Now, so this is for components 1, 2, and 5 of the facility. Let's see what's going on under component 3, which, as you remember, is the one that is unlocking investment at the SME and startup level. Last year in April, we launched what we call the Blue Tech for Waste Challenge. This is a way of identifying SMEs, startups, investing or doing something around the management of hazardous chemicals and waste. So we launched this challenge. We invited companies and startups to apply. We got 50 proposals. Basically, we shortlisted 11, and then we selected 4 applications from Barbados, from Dominican Republic, and 2 from Trinidad and Tobago. And we are in the process of identifying a 5th one that would be the ones that we're going to be investing and co-investing IDB and the GEF facility into these companies. That if you move to the next one, you can see like a snapshot of the waste streams. Rachel, if you can go to the next slide. Well, it had some animation, I don't know. Okay, so here you can see the companies, the countries that are being benefited. There's a high concentration in this bunch in Trinidad and Tobago. The ecosystem there is pretty good. And these are some of the waste stream that these companies and startups will be tackling. And here you can see the co-investment between the facility, the program, the IDB. And then, of course, one of our requirements is for these companies to also leverage some resources. And here you can see the co-investment. So this was, let's say, the first approach under this component 3 to unlock this, to mobilize this ecosystem of startups and SMEs. So we still have some resources allocated for this. And this is what we're in the process of defining. So we did the challenge, we launched it. We got some very good companies, some very good investments that are kicking in this year. So this project have recently been approved, and now they're going to get implemented in 2023 and part of 2024. So what do we do? What's the next step? And Rachel, if you can go to the next slide. This is something that we're defining as we speak. But there are different options. One is to relaunch a challenge like the one we launched in last year. But we're also rethinking how can we create a pipeline and how can we better mobilize this ecosystem of SMEs and startups. So the first thing we're going to do is to revisit the list of the 50 projects that we got from the challenge number 1. Then we're going to do some direct engagement at the country level, trying to identify one of the benefits of working with the IDB is that we have country offices throughout the Caribbean. So we have people who are constantly interacting with SMEs, with startups. So we're trying to engage into those conversations to see if we can identify good companies to invest. And then something very interesting, and this is the last point. So, our mission here is to unlock financing. And we can do it through the 10 million facility that we have and the GEF financing. But honestly, if we want to scale this up, we need to engage financial institutions, commercial banks and other types of financial institutions to say, hey, there is a business opportunity in this sector. You have good companies with good business models. that might be worth investing in, or creating some kind of financial product for this type of companies. Now, so we are in the process of engaging in conversations and dialogues and technical assistance with commercial banks throughout the Caribbean to explore the possibility and making the business case for these institutions to create specific lines, credit lines, or different kind of financing institutional, so from the commercial banks themselves, so we can really unlock investment in the Caribbean. No? So this is what we're doing now. We will finalize this proposal in the next days. So hopefully we will be able to share it with Anil, with Ludo, and all the team to get their inputs on how to move forward in this, let's say, private sector and component 3. No? So with that, back to you, Jewel. If you want to complement something, please go ahead.
Arman, I think the only thing to say is that we are eager to sign the contract with you. We think that the second call for proposals might be of utility, but we see how that goes. Okay, but I'm really excited about getting these five projects off the ground going forward. Thanks very much. I think now we pass to you, Rachel. So Rachel will take you to Rachel acts as the project coordinator for the Islands program for the Caribbean. So she will present on our progress to date. Rachel, over to you. Gosh, it looks really...
Thank you, Jill. The colors look off.
Yeah, the colors look off. It looks really pretty on her slide.
Rest assured.
Yeah,
all right. Thank you, Joel. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Good to be with you all today. So what we've done on the first slide is mapped out the different project components, and we've given here a breakdown of the project activities. And then we would move forward with an outline of those activities that we've made good progress with to date, update on those, outline those activities where we're currently working on project procurement, and then those projected activities for the rest of this year. We will touch on those, and then talk a bit about the challenges and lessons learned that we've had thus far, hoping that moving forward in the discussions today we can exchange ideas on how to improve in terms of those challenges and what's working well in the other regions. We're keen to hear about that. So as outlined here, the 10279 project with the 9 countries, as Joel mentioned, and 1047 with the 3 additional project countries in the Caribbean region, we've synergized the work plans for these 2 projects, and we have endorsed moving forward with the 12 project countries together. And so while that might have impacted the timeline overall for us a bit, we saw the virtue in this approach, and we have made good progress since the synergized approach was endorsed. And so under component 1, where we're starting up with preventing the future buildup of chemicals and the associated waste streams that's entering into these small island development states, we have 8 core activities here. The aqua blue colors are the UNEP-led activities, and the green are the FAO-led activities. And so we're working on the legal and institutional strengthening here, training needs assessments, and the development of a sustainable training platform. We're looking at customs and border control practices, including training on best practices under the FAO general guidance documents. We have the development of regional labeling standards, and then we're moving into sustainable procurement activities. Under component 2, we're looking at safe management and disposal. So we are working on the identification of stockpiles that we currently have, and developing the management, disposal, and stabilization plans with the project countries. And then we are looking at UPOP's awareness raising, an exciting activity here. We're working with the FAO on the updates of the pesticide stock management system as an activity here. And then we're moving into hazardous waste management with different key sectors as outlined here. Under component 3, we're looking at several waste streams. We have e-waste, ELVs, plastic waste management, including PVCs management. And here we're looking at regional solutions for the environmentally sound management and best practices that we could bring to the region. And then we have a few national projects where we're collaborating with the private sector, including Carnival Cruise Line here in the Bahamas and the Dominican Republic. And then for the PVCs management, we have 9 of the 12 project countries where we're looking at PVC management concerns in the different countries based on their economic situation or industries where these are of particular concerns, such as agriculture or tourism. And then under component 4, we have knowledge management and communication activities, including the reporting requirements, knowledge management, information exchange. We have been involved with the CCKM and working closely with the delivery of several webinars here. The one project activity that we are advancing under component 4 is the implementation of the Plastic Tighteners Challenge in the Caribbean region. And then we have been working here with improving private sector collaboration. So on the next slide, we have the updates for those activities that we've made good progress on for the legislative and institutional framework activity under Output 1.1. We have just endorsed at the PSC level the consulting team that will be working with us on this activity. And in the next 6 weeks, we hope to have the inception meeting where at the regional level, we will meet to discuss the projected work plan, have that endorsed and move forward with the execution. For the development of the 2 regional labeling standards in the region, we've entered into an agreement with CrossQ, the regional labeling standards body for the Caribbean, and we have also entered into the contractual agreement with the consulting team. And in the next 2 weeks, we're hoping to have the inception meeting where similarly the project work plan will be presented to the steering committee for endorsement, and then we begin execution of the activity. For the Plastic Tighteners Challenge implementation in the Caribbean, we have onboarded consultants for 8 of the 9 countries. The exception here is Cuba, so we're working towards getting that consultant on board soon. The activities here are also very much streamlined with the work of the CCKM team, so we've been working closely with them on the development of the web app and streamlining the products that will be used under this project so that they serve as global tools. We have the inception phase completed for 6 of the project countries where we have potential implementing partners identified, and the consultants there will move into the first rounds of underground missions to start the underground work here. And then with the additional 2 countries, we're just in the inception phase where we're identifying implementing partners to get the work underground going. And then, of course, in terms of the general knowledge management, we are in the process of developing our first 2 knowledge products. One is on the environmentally sound management of end-of-life vehicles, and that consultancy has been awarded. And we're in the process of contracting a firm to work with us on the Tighteners knowledge product, where we will be outlining the objectives of the program and using that as a tool to improve the reach as we move forward with the youth and the call to action there. These 5 activities here are those where the procurement process is currently ongoing. We are working on terms of reference development for 3 of these, and we currently have the end-of-life vehicle 4 of these, and we currently have the opportunity for the promotion of the ESM management that just closed this weekend actually. So we will be entering the tender evaluation process for this. And in terms of planning for upcoming activities that we project over the next 6 months, we should begin work on. We're working with the FAO closely on the terms of reference for delivery of the good labeling practices for pesticides in the agricultural sector and streamlining that to the Caribbean region and developing the tools and delivering the training there. And then we're also working closely with them on the development of the terms of reference for the update of the PSMS system. And then we have 3 other activities that we hope to at the end of the second quarter issue. This is on the improvement of the capacity to manage hazardous waste, and the e-waste management work, and the PVC management work. In terms of the administrative achievements for us, we've entered into the requisite agreements with both the UNEP and the FAO now. We have established executing arrangements with all of the project countries in terms of establishing a national working group in each of these countries, and then we have nominated representatives from each of these countries that sit on our project steering committee. We have entered into the requisite bilateral agreement with Cuba for the execution of their project activities. As mentioned, we've established a national working group. We have, for several countries, managed to confirm the need for that underground capacity building at the national level via a national project assistant. So we are actively working on the recruitment with Belize and Suriname, and in the coming weeks we're hoping to advance the work with Dominica, and several of the other countries are reviewing the terms of reference for their project assistance, so we will move forward. In October last year, we had an awesome regional inauguration, our first face-to-face meeting under the program for the Caribbean region, and that was a tremendous success. And then that was directly followed by our first project steering committee meeting, and we had additional sessions help to present on the IDB work and the CCKM work for the region. At this meeting, our projected work plan and budget for 2022 into 2023 was presented and then endorsed further to the meeting. And one thing that we're working on in the coming months is that there was a recognized need for an interim session. The steering committee members felt like maybe 1 year apart was not sufficient to meet at that level. So a virtual interim session was requested, so we'll be working on that. Here we have on this slide outlined the expenses to date. Understandably, it is a little lower than the initial projections. When we present on the challenges in the next slide, we'd better understand. So for the UNEP across the 2 projects, we presented the overall expenses here. And then for the FAO, we have incurred some expenses in the first quarter of the project that started October 2022. Right, in terms of the challenges, as mentioned, it took some time and some effort to synergize the work plans for both projects, and then to work through the endorsement of same. And so that took some time, but we managed to successfully get this endorsed with all 12 project countries in the 3rd quarter of last year. The bilateral agreement with Cuba and consistent communication with Cuba is a challenge that we are currently working through. Further to potential language barriers, there is also the technology that's been hampering some of the communication there, so we're actively working on this. There were also significant administrative changes in the project personnel, and so that also implicated our progress with them. So we're working through this, and then with the procurement process, we recognize that for several of the opportunities that we advertised, we received insufficient bids to move forward, insufficient technically sound bids also. And then we also recognize that several of the bids were overscoped and overpriced. So extensive negotiations were required in order for us to move forward. And so the lessons learned here sort of present the future mitigation measures that we hope to move forward with. And so we've been attempting to improve the reach of our requests for proposals. We've been working closely with the CCKM team on this. We now have the ability to directly upload our call for opportunities on the Green Forum. And then we've been reaching out to other regional and international agencies, regional centers and organizations in order to get the expertise that we require in order to have technically sound work executed moving forward. In addition to that, we have been giving consideration to including the timeline and costs in several of the terms of references, so that then removes the need for extensive negotiations as the scope is better managed in the proposals that we receive. We have, in addition to our quarterly reporting being distributed to all the project countries, we have been setting up frequent calls with the national working groups in each of the countries. And we've recognized that this modality has been working really good in terms of expediting the endorsement of certain aspects of the project. The communication as well improved, and we see that continuous buy-in from the project partners nationally. And then also we have been working extensively on having discussions with other regional entities and project executing agencies in the country, in the region, to ensure that we synergize the work, that we're not duplicating efforts, and we're also recognizing new opportunities to maybe move forward and expand on islands project activities in the future by collaborating. So thus far, we've had good interactions with several groups such as the Soil Care Group, the UNEP offices in the region, the OECS. They are also sharing our calls for opportunities, the ACP and the ACE teams. We've touched base with them. And we continue to work on this as we move forward because we've recognized the success there. And with that, we'll thank you for your time. I don't know if you have any questions or follow up there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Rachel. So I think what we'll do after all of the regional presentations, we'll take questions and comments. And in the meantime, if something comes to mind, please do pop it in the chat. Right now, we'll hand over to the Pacific Regional Projects. So over to you, Dixon and Edward. Edward, I understand you want to share your screen, so hopefully you're a presenter and you can do that. The floor is yours, Edward.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. I'm in the process of sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
We can see it, yeah, perfect.
All right, thank you. Okay, colleagues, I would say very good night to you all from where I'm presenting here in my home country, PNG. So with that, I'd like to commence this presentation. So please do let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow, and we'll get straight into this. All right, so the overview for my presentation, as you are aware, I just want to talk about the locality of the project in the Pacific. I thought we were not in the last meeting, so introduce my Jeff Islands Pacific team. Would get context, or that will make it easy for those who want to make contact with us, and just provide an update on where things are between the time we commenced this project in the Pacific up until last year, and what we are planning to do this year going forward. Right, as you can see, and I think everyone who are not familiar with this, this is where we are in the Pacific region. You have the furthest Palau closer to the Philippines, and the furthest Kiribati more towards the Hawaii and in the United States. Yeah. So the countries that are involved, 14 of them, as you can see in the list, starting with Cook Islands and ending with Vanuatu. So we have 3 sub-regions in which these countries exist, which is Melanesia, where Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu placed. Then we have the Micronations towards the top north, and that's where you find Kiribati, Nauru, Palau, and Tuvalu. And the rest is in the Polynesian region, where you have Niue, Samoa, Tonga, also located within this, including Cook Islands. So it's quite diverse, separated mostly by the Pacific Ocean, and that's where one of our major challenges is in terms of delivery of this project in the Pacific. So there you go, that's my team. Renee is the Finance and Admin Officer. Malcolm is our procurement specialist, engaged as a consultant, and he resides in Vienna. So again, we do have our time zone challenges within our regional child project as well. Steve leads the communication consultant team and is based in Fiji. And I have my two supervisors, Joshua and Dixon from UNEP and Joshua from SPREP. So I have got their emails there. You can always make contact with us. Moving on, just the project components, similar to other child projects, we have 4 components that we are dealing with within the region. So the first one is dealing with preventing the future buildup of chemicals impairing kids. So much of this is around development of legislation, model legislation and frameworks on sustainable financing, and then also strategies to improve waste management and have the model legislations to control mercury containing products. Yeah. Component 2 looks into safe management and disposal of existing chemicals, products and materials. So you have those outputs that we are dealing with. One of the main ones that we have sort of commenced is looking into ELVs, which is a very big problem within the Pacific. Component 3, the safe management of products entering our Pacific region and closing out materials and product loops for products. Yeah. So again, we have 4 components there. One of those main ones that we'll be looking at, as you can see, is to look at establishment of used soil management systems within a number of participating countries. And one of the biggest projects that we are looking at within the region is a backstopping facility for healthcare waste, where work has already commenced. And we are looking at convening further donor interest and funding to ensure we have a facility up and running to address healthcare waste management in the Pacific as well. So similar to the rest of the projects within the child regions, component 4 looks at knowledge management, and one of the biggest tasks that we have commenced work on is the site tenants program. So that is advanced into the engagement phase, which will include 5 initial countries. That's Samoa, Cook Islands, Tonga, and the 2 others that we will be working closely with youth organizations in the region to ensure we deliver the site tenants challenge program. Updates from 2021 to 22. Much of our activities that have been planned, that were approved in our 2022 work plan and procurement plan were not implemented given the challenges that I will be discussing here. So in quarter 3, 2021, that's when the project commenced, and the IA and the EA commenced recruitment of the project management team, and also commenced the process of implementing the first regional activity. And then it moved into quarter 1 of 2022, the first regional activity relating to a scoping study for bulky waste recycling in the region was implemented. So this was commissioned and progressed during the quarter. The project inception meeting was convened in early March, where the 2022 work plan and budgets were approved, and the 2022 procurement plan was also approved for implementation. Towards the end of the quarter, I was recruited into the role of project manager. Then we commenced our activities in Q2. So during the initial project meeting, the inception meeting, the countries sort of informed the PSC at that time that due to the long gestation period, a lot of the country priorities had changed. Some of them have been implemented by countries through their own internal funding, and others had sort of changed their priorities. So we were tasked, the PMU, to get back to the countries and commence the process of consulting them to finalize their country priorities. So that took Q2 and a good few months in Q3. So in Q3 of 2022, we then went into developing the country work plans and budgets following from the finalization work that was done to the CPF. The outcome of the scoping study for the bulky waste then was inconclusive to establishment of a regional recycling hub. Hence, the economic study, which was recommended back then, the tender was released as well. So as part of our administration, project PMU team recruitment, we were able to recruit 2 technical assistants for the project in July and September, and these were for the Samoa and Cook Islands national project offices. Towards the end of the quarter, we also procured the procurement specialist as a consultant, and out of that, we were able to get 12 country work plans and budgets finalized. 2 other countries we were not able to consult in order to get their work done was Fiji and Vanuatu due to the non-engagement mainly within the country focal points, which we have since resolved. And then we continued to look at equipment of the remaining 12 technical assistants through the tender process during the quarter. And of course, we did submit the first PIR for the project to the IA during this quarter as well. In Q4, the economic study tender progressed, and which is, we'll give a further update. It's almost at the conclusion phase. So this economic study really is looking into establishment of a regional recycling hub for bulky waste in the Pacific region. And we are almost to the end of that, and the study outcomes are looking good for us to progress to the next stage. Further to that, we also recruited our third technical assistants. And as I heard from the Caribbean presentation, the challenges around having good applicants for the roles, it's the same over here in the Pacific, where our tenders have sort of not really widely reached the countries of concern, 14 countries when we put out the tenders. So that's where the recruitment has been quite slow. As of last year, we were only able to recruit 3 technical assistants into the roles, into their respective roles in the country. So the third technical assistant was for the Tonga country. During the quarter as well, we commenced work on our 2023 procurement plan, which is a revision of the 2022 plan, which was basically not implemented due to the challenges that we had. During the quarter, we also were able to engage our communications consultants, which are based in Fiji, and this work through the engagement, work on the communications plans also commenced with John at the global level. Yeah. Also during the quarter, we were able to convene our first project steering committee meeting. And in this meeting, we presented our 2023 work plan and budget and the 2023 procurement plan as well for the PSC's approval. So moving forward into 2023, this is our plan that we intend to undertake. So convening of the PMU planning meeting was basically to get everything into perspective following the PSC meeting and finalization of the 2023 work plan and budget and the procurement plan. So we have concluded that meeting, the PMU planning meeting as of early this month, and that has now set forth the plan for us to commence procurement of the respective regional and country activities. So we have prioritized what we need to procure based on the size of the projects, both at the regional and country level, the budget associated with the projects, the complexity around getting the necessary terms of references in place for the project in order to facilitate the SPREP tender process to commence. So these are some of the criteria that we have used in order to start the commencement of the procurement process. So for quarter one, we are looking at 9 regional and country activities. And the major procurements there are the PNG, DDT, and PCB removal and disposal activities, the Samoa e-waste remaking workshop, those few to name. Then we will again progress further the work that we are doing with Melani's team, especially with John and Clara around the communication plan and the stakeholder plan. So we plan to finalize all of that in quarter one of this year. So in quarter two, we intend to commence procurement of, again, another 15 regional and country activities, and then progress consultation on the country MOUs as well. So one of the challenges that we have is we cannot deliver the country activities until and unless we have the MOUs in place. So we have realized that in our planning meeting, and we have commenced work on ensuring that we have 14 country activities in place. MOUs in place before we can commence any activities. But the plan that we have set with the countries is that we will work on the priority activities, and as soon as the MOUs are concluded, which we are hoping to do in quarter three, we will then be able to quickly get the tender process underway for all those activities that we will commence work around. And then the recruitment of the technical assistance, again, is been prioritized this year. So we intend to have first in quarter one, we aiming to recruit 5, and in quarter two, aiming to recruit the rest of the technical assistance. So this will ensure that we have coverage in the countries and help with country work plan implementation going forward. So that's our plan for that. In quarter three, again, we have 13 regional and country activities planned for commencement of the procurement process, so that we can then get into the tender as well. So basically, we are down to 7 regional and country activities in quarter four. So based on the priorities that we have had, these are minor contracts that we are looking into in order to implement. So in 2023, our work plan and budget that we have presented to the PSC stands at $6.4 million to be expended, and the procurement plan stands at $7.2 million. So that's a difference of 800,000 is really the cost related to the PMU and also other personnel and consultant engagement. So that's where you see the variations in these activity plans that we have and the budget associated. Basically, that's just a very brief overview of where we are with the projects. And 2023 is a big year for us where we will start kickstarting all our country and regional activities to get some meat into the game for the project in the Pacific. Yeah. Thank you. And that's where he.
Thanks, Edward. Thanks very much. As I mentioned, we'll leave questions until the end of the regional project updates. But thank you. That was very informative. Charlotte, over to you.
Thank you, Melanie. I will just quickly share my screen as well. I have one slide that I can present to you. Let me see if this works. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it well.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you, everyone. I will just, following the footsteps of our colleagues in Pacific, to start off with saying like 2023 will be our year to really start implementation of the Indian Ocean child projects. So yeah, as you are aware, we are still very much in startup phase when it comes to the Indian Ocean. So we first now had an inception workshop for Maldives quite recently, last month. So they are in quite good shape to start with the activities, but they're also still in startup phase in the sense that they're focusing on recruitment of the relevant experts and developing of the TORs. So they just had their first project steering committee last week, by which then the annual work plan of 2023 was approved. I'm lining out here a few key activities for them in the coming year, which is capacity improvement of customs and environmental enforcement officers, developing guidelines for the sound disposal of e-waste and chemical agricultural waste, capacity building of the private sector as well to enhance collection and processing and export of recyclables. And then publication of knowledge management projects, working with the communications teams on gathering of best practices and activities on awareness raising. So, I mean, that's just in a nutshell what their activities will focus on for the coming year. Some of the proposed activities are actually quite tied in to the activities of the regional component. And since that one is still a bit lagging behind, we're in the process of recruiting a project manager that will be based in Comoros, because that project manager for the regional component will partly assist the implementation of the national component in Comoros. So that recruitment process is still ongoing, obviously a little bit complicated due to location, etc. That's moving forward. So, but just on Maldives, as they are starting, and then Seychelles, they have inception workshop scheduled for this month, actually March. So they will be starting their activities as well. And then Comoros, Mauritius, and regional, they are still pending recruitment of the project management team. That's ongoing in both of the countries and on the regional level. So yeah, we are hopeful that like in the next round of these meetings, we will be able to provide a little bit more insight on the actual activities that are starting in the countries. That we will be able to present some of our project teams in the country. Yeah, we're quite happy that we have good project managers on board for Maldives and Seychelles so far. Teams are very motivated. So, and I think UNDP support, like HQ level, etc., is quite good also to support, for example, Comoros with the implementation of their components. So I think that's more or less it from my side. But yeah, again, like next time, I'm hoping to present a few more slides here as well, and go a little bit more in detail of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Charlotte, and thanks to all of the regional presentations. It's great to get an update on where we're all at. Herman, I noticed one question from you in the comments about sharing TORs between child projects. Just for our clarity, would it be useful for implementing agencies and executing agencies if CCKM took on the role of sharing TORs for each of the child projects with the other child projects? Is that what you were asking for, Herman? Or was that a request from FAO? Okay, we can hear you.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you now.
Well, no, sorry, just we will do the adjustment to many.
Can you try again, Oksana?
Yeah. Okay. So we have no objections in a sense of their sharing the TOR from the implementing side of FAO. Okay.
Okay, brilliant. So we'll go ahead and do that. Any other questions or thoughts on the regional presentations? If not, we'll move forward to the CCKM update. Okay, there'll be time for interventions during this update as well. So now is the time for the Coordination, Communication and Knowledge Management project, the global project, to provide you an update on our work. Clara will be sharing our slides momentarily. First, I'd like to just quickly introduce you to the CCKM team. There might be some new members that you haven't met. So we have Jovita, who works on knowledge management. Cohen, who's new to the team, who's assisting on private sector engagement. Clara, who leads on community engagement. Margot, our gender specialist, and also John, who is our communications coordinator for Islands. I don't think I've missed anyone. Clara, can you go ahead and share the presentation? Thank you. Next slide, please. So as you all know, Islands takes a programmatic approach and a harmonized approach. Sorry, folks, technical glitch. So we take a harmonized approach to several areas in Islands. These are communications, gender, stakeholder engagement, and brand and visibility. So there's resources for you all to use on all of these, and Cohen will be dropping the links to these documents in the chat. John, my colleague, will update us later in the presentation on communications. Margot will provide an update on gender, and I'll provide a quick update now on stakeholder engagement. As many of you know, the stakeholder engagement handbook is complete and has been published. We've conducted stakeholder engagement training in the Caribbean. This training was done virtually, and we had 43 attendees, both from BCRC and national focal points from Caribbean SIDS countries. We also completed stakeholder engagement training in person in the Pacific alongside the Project Steering Committee meeting for the Pacific Regional Child Project in November. And we had 40 attendees at that training. And this included members of the Project Management Unit and SPREP, as well as the Pacific Island countries involved in the Islands project. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to hand over to Jovita, who has been redeveloping jeffislands.org, to give us an update on jeffislands.org phase 2. Over to you, Jovita.
Thank you, Melanie. So Islands CCKM team is finalizing the second phase of development of Jeff Islands page with a new branded look. We have just launched the page today. It is a soft launch and we are still continuing testing the platform, but please be welcome to visit www.jeffislands.org. All the feedback for improvements is welcomed and appreciated. The jeffislands.org knowledge management system will provide quick and easy access to the latest information and research related to the key areas of the program. Has other products, which mainly entails end-of-life vehicles, e-waste and used oil in islands context, and gender, mercury, plastic, and toxic chemicals. Next slide, please. Each island region will have a dedicated page with regional branded colors, interactive branded maps presenting islands and countries of a region, featured latest news and knowledge from the region, the calendar of the upcoming events and webinars color marked by the regional colors, regional environmental benefits presented, and team members and of course partners logo lookups presented as well. Next slide, please. We design new dedicated pages for each of key issue areas Islands program is working on to present why each issue is important and what Islands program is doing to solve these issues. Next slide, please. You can check each thematic issue page presents key information about the issue. We curated the knowledge and information. What is the impact to health? What our Islands program countries are doing to solve these key issues, and what are the key news and resources to support the knowledge sharing among visits. Next slide, please. We also developed new pages for news and for knowledge. All jeffislands.org knowledge and news are designed among these key issues of Islands program is focusing on to help visitors quickly filter and access the key resources. The page is arranged to present the latest information created by Islands team, as well as information generated by the program activities and pencils. Right now we have almost 300 resources in the platform. News and knowledge can be searched and filtered by topic, region, country, stakeholder group, issue, and organization. Next slide, please. Look ahead and next steps for jeffislands.org. So our team will continue working on further developments of jeffislands.org by researching and analyzing the best practices of online knowledge platforms and developing detailed country pages for each 33 islands and countries. We also will be doing deep dive analysis of existing knowledge products, which we're already hosting in jeffislands.org, in order to assist experts more easily, quickly search and access the knowledge. We also will be improving internal analysis of the knowledge we're hosting, analyzing the gap for the improvements. And of course, we will be researching for the best practice for online platform, also a search function. Over to you, Melanie.
Thanks, Jovita. So as Jovita mentioned, jeffislands.org phase 2 went live today. It's a soft launch, so please be gentle, but we are really very much looking forward to your feedback and comments. So also part of Islands Knowledge, in addition to the jeffislands.org, is our Islands webinar series. We host webinars to convene SID stakeholders together on key islands thematic issues. And just to give you a quick update, in 2022, we hosted webinars on tackling plastics in SIDS. We did a Caribbean and a Pacific version. We hosted a Pacific regional workshop on sustainable waste financing, together with Pack Waste Plus, one of our project partners, also a project executed by SPREP in the Pacific region. We hosted a webinar on the Minamata Convention, sharing SIDS experiences on the Minamata Convention, and this was across the Pacific and Caribbean region together. And we also hosted a webinar which was very well received on women's leadership in SIDS, chemicals and waste management. The webinars have proved a really fantastic opportunity to bring SIDS experts together, as well as national focal points and other interested parties to discuss these key issues. And as Clara will explain in her presentation on community engagement, we also use webinars to launch our communities of practice. In April, we'll be convening another webinar on e-waste to launch that community of practice, and another one on end-of-life vehicles. So we very much look forward to your ongoing participation in these webinars, and thanks so much for the support so far. I know many of you on the call have been involved in organizing them and helping us find speakers, so thank you for that. So now we'll move on to an update on community engagement, and for that I'll hand over to Clara. All yours, Clara. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. All right. So peer-to-peer learning and community engagement are at the heart of the Islands program. In fact, Islands hosts 7 communities of practice on key topics, namely plastics, gender equality, mercury, e-waste, end-of-life vehicles, used oil, and islands. The communities are hosted on the Green Forum, an online interactive community space for professionals to share insights and collaborate in the pursuit of a sustainable transition. The Green Forum is managed by GKP and is home of several discussions and groups on different topics, and it is attracting more and more participants every day. CCKM is also supporting the ongoing development of this platform. For example, we will be launching an audio feature soon, which will allow for chats in the communities. But why Islands work on community engagement? Well, first of all, to enable peer-to-peer learning, but also to provide a safe space to share experiences and ask questions, to connect the currently disconnected people in geographically isolated areas, and create a space for collaboration and exchange among stakeholders. And to reach these objectives, so we have adopted a 4-steps approach. So first of all, we need to raise interest, and we launch each community through a dedicated webinar. Then we need to make it relevant. We map and then invite key stakeholders into the groups. Then spread the word, present and promote the communities of practice in different fora. And finally, keep the discussion going. So engage the community through dedicated activities such as call to action, community circles, and workshops. As an example, we launched the gender equality community in December through a webinar. Then stakeholders were carefully mapped and invited. And finally, we planned the Enhancing the Gender Equality in SIDS Technology and Innovation campaign, which Margot will talk more extensively about, to really engage with the community. And moreover, the community will be presented at various events, including a side event of the Commission on the Status of Women this March. This strategy is proven to be effective, and the Islands communities are steadily growing. For example, the gender equality community was only launched in December, and it counts now more than 100 members. This is mostly due to the accuracy of the stakeholder mapping done by Margot, which ensured we invited people actually interested in this topic, who then responded very positively to the invite. And I would like now to take the opportunity to thank all of you who have already joined the communities, and invite you once again to join if you have not done so already. My colleague Cohen will add the link to register on the platform, and otherwise please feel free to reach out to me and I will share the details after this meeting. Now, regarding Islands youth engagement. So engaging young people in SIDS is key to Islands' success. And this is because young people are agents of change and have an important role to play in reducing pollution in their communities. And specifically, Islands youth engagement happens through the Plastics Tight Earner Challenge, which is an initiative developed by UNEP and partners to educate young people on plastic pollution and how they can affect change in their communities. So the Tight Earners was originally a booklet meant for in-person activities only. CCKM redeveloped the Tide Turners booklet content into a single user app to be used by young people on mobile phones. The app aims to scale up the Tide Turners Challenge distribution and reach, host the curriculum in an inspiring and engaging way, and facilitate the growth of a global community of Tide Turners in small island developing states. Our goal is to engage over 100,000 youth in Caribbean, Indian, and Pacific Ocean. And to ensure the app is co-created and fit for purpose, we are currently beta testing it with young people around the world. And on this note, on behalf of CCKM, we would like to thank BCRC Caribbean for convening 2 in-person workshops with young people in Trinidad 2 weeks ago. The workshops were incredibly insightful, and we are currently working to incorporate the feedback received into our final product. The global launch of the app is scheduled for April this year. And by the way, it is not too late to join the beta testing process. So if you're interested, please fill in this form. Cohen, I will again share the link. Thank you, Cohen. Otherwise, again, I can share the details with you. For us, it's really important to have your feedback and comments. So thanks for taking the time. And I think that's it. So thanks, and over to Melanie and then to Margot.
Thanks very much, Clara. So as Clara said, we're very excited about the beta testing of the app, and we are very keen to get your feedback. If you are one of the people that hasn't provided feedback yet, please do. We'd like to hear your thoughts and insights. UNDP, obviously, we've engaged less with the Indian Ocean region, so it would be really wonderful to get some feedback from that side of things as well. Okay, now we'll move over to Margot, our gender consultant, to give us an update from CCKM's side on gender mainstreaming. Over to you, Margot, you have the floor.
Hi, thanks everyone. So you may remember that last year, Islands finalized the Gender Equality Action Plan, and this is our guiding strategy and outline of how to advance gender-responsive approaches toward transformative outcomes on gender and social dynamics across the Island Child Projects, but also the program as a whole. And so we are now actively implementing across different components of this strategy for effective, efficient, and satisfactory achievement of our island goals and the global environmental benefits that have been laid out. So our main focus in the last year has been really on the institutionalization as a priority for enhancing gender in the processes and establishing different mechanisms and tools to support gender mainstreaming and engagement of women and diverse stakeholders, with collaboration and support of the regional projects, to elaborate also on coordination, engagement, and leadership in the regions, as well as knowledge generation, capacity building, and communications. Next slide, please. So a large undertaking has been mapping of stakeholders, which Clara mentioned, and I'm thrilled to see actually that percentage increase. I had no idea, but that's great. This means that we really had a focus on gender machinery, which is now been mapped for each of the island's countries. And so happy to share this information. We want to share this information with the child projects. And these are folks from either a gender bureau, department, or ministry, such as the Directorate of Gender Affairs in Antigua and Barbuda. Many of the states also have national women's organizations because they're somewhat smaller. And so these kind of are quasi-government and coordinate also a lot with civil society organizations as well. They're a really great entry point into facilitation of engagement with different stakeholders in the countries that are looking at gender and social issues. This means also we are with them also in complement have mapped as well national and local stakeholders that are really focused around women's rights groups, organizations, youth groups, LGBTQ organizations, disability organizations, advocacy rights, et cetera. This is kind of a twofold process to engage and build capacity on issues relevant to islands, and then also have them be that wider audience so that we can have that large reach of stakeholders as well. We also have been mapping and engaging with regional and international experts. These mostly are networks or institutions in the regions or internationally that are making the link on gender and chemicals and waste. And I actually really at the beginning of this meeting got an email from folks who were part of the gender webinar launch 3 folks who are part of that are at SACM right now, and they sent me a photo of 3 of those women leaders together. So we've already made these connections and we're facilitating these processes, which is a really great thing to see. They're there advocating across different plastics issues, but also on gender too. And so we would really like to take this opportunity to engage much more with our implementing agency partners to come on board and especially reach out to gender focal points in your organizations that might be in the region or are having some specialty focused around the different chemical and waste streams. So it would be great we can reach out to you and share any of their email contacts with us, and we'll invite them to participate in the community of practice and also in any ongoing events that we have. So the community of practice on gender equality has been mentioned already. We've been actively facilitating engagement with these different stakeholder groups as well, having done the launch already, and this upcoming March campaign, which will get underway tomorrow. However, we have actually already released a launch blog for it, which Cohen will share, so check that out. It is coinciding with the International Women's Month and the theme of the Commission on the Status of Women this year, which is on innovation and technological change and education in the digital age. So we're merging that with the Islands program issues and really trying to spotlight women and girls' leadership and opportunities in technology and innovation in relation to the sound management of chemicals and waste in SIDS. We will be asking folks mid-campaign, what can you do to accelerate gender equality in technology, innovation, and digital access in SIDS? This is our call to action. And so really hoping to increase engagement, get folks from all the different regions who are part of the community practice and more broadly to come into the community of practice to share either videos of their experiences, and examples from leaders, quotes, written documentation, et cetera, of what we know that are already happening and what they could be doing, and then share those hopefully with the entire community and across the other communities as well. And so we'll continue to do knowledge sharing through March, but onward as well, obviously, with highlighting events on gender, sharing resources and generating communication tools to engage and continue to build this understanding of gender and the diversity of inequities across the different work streams. Next slide, please. And so these have been mentioned and will be mentioned again, but as we're really trying to mainstream gender, a large piece of my work is trying to support how to bring gender into the activities that are already ongoing. So this is included in the stakeholder engagement plans and communication plans. A lot of that stakeholder mapping, we're hoping to bridge and support and bring in these stakeholders with the stakeholder engagement plans, and then also with the communications plans. There's been increased interaction with the regional projects, which is great to have me support just kind of with ideas of how to mainstream gender in different initial meetings, and also considering different TORs, which has been really great. And I think that'll ramp up a bit more too in 2023. Also have drafted a gender mainstreaming reference package, which we are working on still and developing to make sure that it works for everyone, but really intend for this to be an all-in-one place document for the child projects to see what the how-to on mainstreaming gender is. So we've got some key points in there around stakeholder engagement, what, these tidbits, kind of checkmark items that really could be done quite tangibly for the projects, such as conducting a local gender analysis, or what needs to be done when hosting workshops, meetings, or other stakeholder engagement spaces to think of to make sure that those are being gender responsive and inclusive, and then also have developed the standard language for terms of reference as well. We have a small addition to the quarterly reporting template with a bit just to be able to have projects share what they're doing on gender so that we can kind of monitor that and also support better on that and engage better. And then also part of this has been capacity building, of course, continuing to work with everyone across the project, have done the training in 2022 with the Caribbean and Pacific child projects, which elaborated on key concepts of gender inequality with regional contextual issues, and then also providing interactive space for thoughtful debate and again, broader understanding of these issues and opportunities for mainstreaming gender. And I believe that we will have the opportunity with the Indian Ocean project as well coming up soon for that training. And that is it from me.
Thanks, Margot. That was very useful. And implementing agencies on the line, please note that we will be in contact. We do want to make sure that Margot is in contact with your gender focal points to make sure we really close the loop and ensure that everyone working on gender is invited to the island's gender equality community of practice. And with that, I'll pass over to John for an update on communications generally from the CCKM side. John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mel. So we have one key identifying slogan to define the Islands programme in a meaningful and memorable way, and that is, the tide has to turn, which is now included on all of our assets, whether it be press releases or web invites or PowerPoint presentations. We like it because it's a fact. The tide does have to turn in nature, while in SIDS, the tides are bringing in floods of marine litter, mostly plastics, and there is a rising tide of hazardous waste accumulating on all SIDS. So the focus of the island's communication strategy, therefore, is to help turn the tide on a clearly defined set of pollutants and the POPs that emerge from them. This strapline is a reminder that we are here to do everything we can to help turn the tide on these toxic chemicals and hazardous waste. We've put together quite a considerable comms package for islands. We released the Islands Global Communication Strategy last year, which is a comprehensive guide to the activities we can undertake and the kind of information we can expect to generate from the program worldwide. It covers the lead messaging, the work we do here at CCKM, and also provides a framework for comms activities and information generation in the regions. Every line of the strategy includes indicators for the midterm and the end of project, all of which should be achievable. And to support the strapline, the main line, we are now finalizing the official Islands messaging guidelines with a range of messages for all of our various stakeholder groups, as well as the thematic areas that Islands is targeting, and I will share this with you soon. Next slide, please. So the Islands brand kit and visibility guidelines has also been updated to incorporate new templates and the assets that you can use to present your project in a coherent and correctly branded way. It includes all of the official logo lockups for each region, which I've included on this slide. And please note that these are locked and they cannot be unlocked. The strength of Islands and of the GEF programs in general is the partnerships, and these lockups recognize each partner. The brand kit is available on the website, and if you click on the links inside it, they'll take you directly to the Google Drive where all of the assets can be viewed. And for your convenience, we've also collected all of the assets in editable format in Canva. So if you need to create an invite for a certain event or draft a report, then all of the templates are here, branded and ready to go with all the regional colors and lockups already in place for you. We're identifying key people in each region who will have access to these editable templates. And of course, we'll provide ongoing support for you as you start to use them on a regular basis. Next slide, please. So to help ensure a coherent approach to our identity across islands, training on how to access and use of the brand kit and Canva assets has already taken place in the Caribbean region, and we're ready to schedule the Pacific region training for March. We've supported the Indian Ocean region with branding at its national inception workshops, and we'll complete regional training in the Indian Ocean region after the regional inception event, as well as the Atlantic once it begins. We've shared the annual communications planning templates with BCRC and IDB in the Caribbean and SPREP in the Pacific. And ideally, we'll review our communications work on an annual basis in December and plan the year ahead in January. And as the program builds momentum, we found that updates and clarifications on Islands communications is necessary. And these updates are shared in the form of communications transmissions from me to the regional communications focal points. To date, comms transmissions have been shared on approval processes for press releases, the rebranded press release templates, and the communication strategy itself. If you've missed any of these, please contact me and I'll share them. Next slide. So what's next? Well, in a way, you'll tell me. I see 2023 as very much a period of awareness raising, that Islands is here, that the pollution we are talking about is real, and we're ready to do something about it. But how do we raise awareness? through our messaging, through mobilizing our activities, reporting on them, and identifying one or two big ticket items in each region. The South Pacific Games, for example, are taking place in November in the Solomon Islands, and we should be there. The Caribbean are looking at spreading the word through music, and I love that. The IDB Innovation Lab in the Caribbean has some great initiatives on the cards, and we'll be profiling the enterprises IDB Lab is investing in and building islands connections with the private sector. The Tide Turners app that Clara mentioned. The series of Islands podcasts are on the way. A series of reels featuring voices from the field is being developed. Art and creative competitions and opportunities for young people are being explored. This can all actually be quite a lot of fun. And of course, we're very active on the Green Forum and the communities of practice there. So that's my quick review of the status of Islands comms to date, and I look forward to seeing just what we can all do together in 2023. Thank you. Back to you, Mel.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John, for that great overview. I thought I'd just pause quickly to check if anyone has any questions or comments. One comment from my side is those logo lockups are locked, so please don't try and take them apart. These have been approved by Jeff, and as we mentioned earlier, the strength of Islands programs is in the partnership, and these lockups show all of the partners the way they need to be shown. So please do keep that in mind and use them in the locked up way. We really appreciate that. Does anyone have any questions, comments so far? Otherwise, we'll move on. I don't see anything in the chat. Please drop your questions in the chat. I saw a question earlier from Yolanda regarding the webinars, asking if they're recorded. They are. You can rewatch them and see the outline of all of the webinars on our website, and Cohen's placed the link for those webinars in the chat. So moving on then, CCCM also has a technical role relating to recycling best practices. There's 4 thematic areas that we're working on for recycling best practices in SIDS. These include e-waste, end-of-life vehicles, plastics, and used oil. And over the last year, we've been working diligently on e-waste and end-of-life vehicles. So we've had a consultant that many of you have been in contact with, Nahida, who's been researching e-waste practices across the 33 island SIDS in order to develop and identify best practices really in e-waste management, and to develop some case studies that we can all learn from. So we're in the process of finalizing these case studies now. They'll be developed into knowledge products, shared on jeffislands.org and also shared on the Green Forum. And then we'll also be developing some reels based on these case studies as well. Reels are short videos, short informative videos in a couple of minutes that you'll be able, that are quickly digestible and easily shareable. So the case studies on e-waste, there'll be one from the Cook Islands on their experience in developing legislation on solid and hazardous waste that includes e-waste. There'll be another case study from Trinidad and Tobago sharing the country's experience in strengthening collaborative working relationships in governments to manage e-waste exports. And there'll be a case study from Guyana, which involves engaging the informal sector, waste pickers in e-waste management. And there'll be 2 case studies from Samoa. One of them is from a stationery company that developed a take-back scheme for end-of-life electronic products, and another case study on a recycling and waste management association and how that integrated with the greater private sector. So we very much look forward to sharing those with you. On end-of-life vehicles, next slide, please. There'll be 2 case studies, one from St. Lucia on public and private roles, government authority and private recyclers across the detailed stages of handling end-of-life vehicles. This includes collection, dismantling, import and export. And there's a second case study from Mauritius related to the import regulations and fiscal measures that Mauritius have put in place to regulate the import of end-of-life vehicles. We were sad, but not necessarily surprised that there wasn't actually a lot of case studies around of end-of-life vehicles. I think what that shows us all is that in SIDS, we are at the very start of managing end-of-life vehicle waste stream, and there's a lot of work to do. So Islands is going to have a big job as we heard from Edward, the Pacific are working quite hard on establishing a regional end-of-life vehicle dismantling facility and then trying to bring that scrap to market through partnership with Swire Shipping. So Islands is going to be working on this issue for the next 5 years. Really, the key outcome of Nahida's work on end-of-life vehicles that she really noted was that regulating the age of import of used vehicles is absolutely essential. Many countries are finding that they're not regulating that, and essentially vehicles arrive in SIDS and they don't work for very long before they're disposed of. So this problem is getting bigger year on year, and without that kind of regulatory aspect, it's going to keep increasing exponentially. So just something to keep in mind as we work on this. So that's a little update on end-of-life vehicles and e-waste. As I mentioned, we're also working on best practices on used oil and plastics. The used oil work began last year, but unfortunately the consultant didn't finish the work. So we'll be looking for a new consultant to continue that and to finish that work this year. And we're also going to be looking at a consultancy on plastics, best practice plastics recycling as well during 2023. So that's the update on recycling best practices, and we very much look forward to sharing those finalized case studies with you and to learning from each other. Right now, I'll hand over to Cohen, who's going to describe another initiative that we're working on with CCKM, IGO for Islands and resource efficiency. Over to you, Cohen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, my name is Cohen, and I'll be introducing you to IGO for Islands, which is a collaboration between the Jeff Islands program and the IGO Global Initiative. Next slide, please. So IGO for Islands, first off, what is IGO? So IGO is a global initiative dedicated to upscaling resource efficiency in companies, and especially in small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs. And the IGO initiative as a whole facilitates simplified access to tailored knowledge and support services to SMEs. And in targeting business resource efficiency, we have largely 5 topical areas, which are energy, waste, chemicals, material, and water. And as you can see, the waste and chemicals are the 2 main focus areas of the Jeff Islands program. And in the long term, the IGO initiative aims to strengthen resilience and environmental facility of SMEs, but also business competitiveness and productivity. And we will explain how. Next slide, please. So in terms of the institutional structure, this IGO for Islands collaboration is a heightened collaboration between GGKP and Islands. And as we all know, GGKP, the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership, is both the executing agency for CCKM and also co-finance partner. And this collaboration is very much part of the co-finance project. So IGO initiative is developed by the Green Industry Platform, which is one of the 3 main platforms of GGKP. And it has already been piloted and rolled out in 3 main regions. And they are Africa, Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia region, which we call EECCA, and Latin America and the Caribbean region. And so what are the key motivations to this collaboration? And in essence, why specifically resource efficiency? Well, first off, we realized the gap in support in SMEs and entrepreneurs in SIDS who are willing to enhance sustainability and also business productivity. And for achieving both goals, resource efficiency is a great instrument because not only it helps SMEs to reduce emissions and reduce hazardous chemicals and waste, but it also detects unnecessary costs arising in their business operations. Therefore, we very much realize this business case in pushing for SME resource efficiency, and we will be promoting them in the SIDS region. But more fundamentally, the overarching resource efficiency strategies, including energy, water, materials, essentially lead to better management of chemicals and waste. And for instance, better management of resource efficiency would lead to reducing waste related to emissions, such as solid waste of fossil fuel combustion or chemicals arising from excessive heating or cooling. And same applies to water efficiency, reducing wastewater, or material efficiency, reducing the use of raw materials and prompting more recycling and reuse of materials. So we very much realize this overlapping interest in the collaboration. Next slide, please. So this is the key features of the IGO initiative. And the IGO initiative is made up of interactive tools plus strategic networks that we operate. So across the three main stages, the first is SME Support Center. And the SME Support Center is an online repository of knowledge and support services in terms of resource efficiency. And based on the knowledge that we have collected, the information feeds into the IGO Assistant tool. So the IGO Assistant is an online self-assessment tool and also navigation tool, easily usable by SMEs. And once using this IGO Assistant tool, the SMEs will be inputting their information such as their expertise, their location, size, etc. And based on this information, this IGO Assistant tool will analyze the current resource efficiency status of that SMEs and provide tailored recommendation based on the information they provided. And the final stage is the implementation manager, which is currently under development. And this tool will be helping SMEs to implement those recommendations collected by the IGO Assistant tool. And at the very heart of the IGO Global Initiative is the IGO network, which I will explain further in the next slide. So the IGO network is interesting because it is not a network of SMEs, but rather a network of international and local SME supporting organizations. In essence, they are organizations that support SMEs in their respective local and regional networks. And they could be made up of business associations, government entities, NGOs, and the list goes on. And the aim of this IGO network is to empower the IGO network members, the SME supporting organizations, first to equip themselves with knowledge, training, support services, then in turn to promote and educate SMEs within their own networks, and to facilitate a more informal networking and knowledge sharing on resource efficiency. We have the dedicated IGO community space on the Green Forum, which the link is being shared now. And the picture on the right is a partial list of the IGO network members, which you can fully browse on the website. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps for IGO for Islands collaboration? Well, first off, we have the IGO for Islands training webinar scheduled for early April. The detailed dates will be released very soon. But first off, before we move on to this webinar, the Islands team has firstly reached out to the Caribbean and Pacific focal points to request support and specifically gather information and contact details of the regional SME stakeholders. And so far, the responses have been very enthusiastic, which we are very grateful for. And we have also very much seen the stark interest in SME resource efficiency in the SIDS region. Therefore, this webinar, we will be inviting the SME stakeholders firstly, so namely the SIDS Chamber of Commerce, business associations, including the tourism sector, government entities, and the list goes on. And the webinar will feature the scene setting. So again, why are we specifically targeting resource efficiency in SIDS, the technical overview, the training on the IGO Assistant tool, and how to utilize the IGO network, and finally the discussion session. And just to note that this will be a very unique opportunity for SME stakeholders in the SIDS region, first to get to know what the IGO initiative can offer to SMEs in the SIDS regions. And also this will be one of the very beginning steps of this collaboration, and more trainings, meet and greets, and knowledge products will follow. So this is a brief overview of the IGO for Islands collaboration, and I will pass it back to Melanie.
Thanks, Cohen. So I realize that IGO is quite a new concept to most of you. It's important to note that GGKP and the Green Industry Platform developed IGO, and after some internal consultation, we saw a lot of synergies, and there's been a lot of excitement from business organizations and other associations that we've reached out to in both the Pacific and the Caribbean regions. Charlotte, we haven't yet reached out to the Indian Ocean region, but we'd certainly like to. And perhaps we could start with the Maldives, given that they have had their national inception, and start mapping those organizations to make sure that they don't miss out on that April workshop also. Also, GGKP, as well as being the executing agency for CCCAM, is a co-finance partner, and this work on IGO is part of GGKP's co-finance. So it's certainly a value add, I think, for Islands execution across the board. Right, so we'll move on now to private sector engagement. As many of you know, CCCAM also has a role in engaging the private sector on the global level in two key sectors, shipping and the cruise industry. Next slide, please. So we've been working quite diligently together with Cohen on finalizing the kind of framework for the Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership. As many of you know, we're working closely with Swire Shipping on this, who developed the Moana Taka Partnership in the Pacific region. And the James, the former managing director of Swire Shipping, has agreed to co-chair our Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership. So since we last met and since the launch of Islands mid last year, we've been consulting with shipping companies together with Swire. We've now spoken to ONE and Kiowa Shipping, and recently, together with BCRC, we consulted Tropical Shipping and the Shipping Association of Trinidad and Tobago. With all of those associations, we're working to onboard the shipping companies to identify port pairs that they can offer in the Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership. And for those that have forgotten, what we really mean here is that we're trying to get free backhaul and ballast voyages from SIDS to recycling markets. So that's what we're asking shipping companies for. So far, there's been great enthusiasm. Shipping companies that we've consulted have told us that they knew about the Moana Taka Partnership, felt a little bit jealous of Swire Shipping coming up with it actually, and had wondered how, if they should replicate it or if they could just become involved. So they were happy to get the invitation to join in this kind of global initiative. And we're also working with Topolytics, which is a waste map software as a company, essentially. They've become a co-finance partner in Islands. And we're working with Topolytics to ensure we can track movement of the recyclables from SIDS to recycling markets. And we'll be able to develop some good visualizations based on that. And we're also working to build a network of SIDS-based recyclers. So if we're going to provide people free shipping, we have to have people ready to take up this free shipping. And we've known for a long time that one of the key barriers to recycling in SIDS is the fluctuating cost of shipping. So we're working to make sure that we consult with SIDS-based recyclers so that they know that soon, that barrier won't be in place. So if they weren't collecting PET because it's not economic to do so, and if they weren't collecting e-waste for the same reason, then they can start to do this. So the next steps in the Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership, we're aiming to onboard shippers so that we can service at least half the countries involved in Islands before we launch. So that's really our prerequisite to launching. We hope to achieve this by mid-2023, and then we're hoping to launch the Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership in August 2023. We'd very much like to do this as part of the GEF Council meeting. So we're consulting internally with UNEP on that. And we also have the possibility of showcasing the Islands Waste-Free Shipping Partnership at the Caribbean Shipping Association annual general meeting, which is set to convene in Trinidad in October this year. So we've got some good movement there, and we look forward to bringing you more updates in the coming months. Next slide, please. We're also working on engaging the cruise industry. This is a more delicate situation, and one that we're taking, first of all, by consulting with national governments in cruise countries. So we've convened now 2 consultations with countries in the Caribbean region, one brief consultation virtually last year, and then a second one in February, just a couple of weeks ago. We were lucky enough to have, while I was visiting BCRC, a great variety of stakeholders in our virtual meeting there, with people representing ports authorities, waste authorities, environment authorities. We got some great key insights and anecdotal evidence on the national management practices of cruise ship waste. For example, in Barbados, we learned that actually cruise ship waste is taken off cruise ships in the port in Barbados, and it is incinerated on site. And when we asked about the situation with the incinerator, because we know in SIDS incinerators are often not working. They said, oh yeah, actually it doesn't work some of the time. And then there is some open burning that occurred. So that directly we've made the link between cruise ship waste and POPs generation. As we know, if we are open burning, there are dioxins and furans produced. So we're going to be looking into that further. And we're also continuing our consultation with Caribbean countries. We've sent them a questionnaire to fill in, and we're putting all of that information together. We'd also like to begin consulting cruise countries in the Pacific region. As many of you know, there's far less cruising activity in the Pacific region, but it is on the increase, particularly post-COVID. Tarawa and Kiribati just received its first cruise ship last week. So we're keen to consult Pacific countries on this, and also the Pacific Tourism Association in the next couple of months. And we'll be continuing our consultations with Carnival Cruise and the Cruise Line Industry Association. That's all there. Next slide, please. So that brings us to the end of our CCKM project update. I hope that there's some questions or comments. Happy to hand over the floor to any of the presenters to answer any comments people may have. Don't be shy. We can't possibly have answered everything. Maybe we have. I can't see any questions in the chat or anyone intervening at this point. If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on then to agenda item 5, items for program coordination group attention. Next slide, please. So a quick budget and expenditure update from our side at CCKM. The JEF ID 10266 is our initial project budget, which was $2 million. Our expenditure up to Q4 is $582,000 with another $500,000 committed. So expenditure is going well and on track at the moment. We welcomed another $2 million tranche of funding from 10472, the additional Caribbean project. And so under this project, we are proposing a budget revision, which we'd ask the program coordination group members take note of today. We'll be, in this budget revision, we're proposing to make provision for small-scale funding agreements between GGKP and BCRC in Caribbean, and GGKP and SPREP in the Pacific. And the reason for these funding agreements is to facilitate regional procurement for significant communications activities. As we're taking a programmatic approach to communications at CCKM, we're very keen to push our funding into the regions and to make sure that if we're making videos on something, that funding, for example, goes to media partners in the Solomon Islands and things like that to develop assets around the Pacific Games. So that's the idea there. And the second area of funding is to support executing agency travel to program coordination group in-person meetings. As you'll remember from the project document, we propose to have PCG meetings in person alongside BRS COP meetings, and we hold the budget for the travel for those meetings. So we're proposing to put in place SSFAs to ensure that we can easily fund the travel for our executing agency partners to attend. So these budget revisions will be articulated, will be documented and then circulated during March for review of program coordination group members, and then hopefully once they're approved, we'll put the budget revision in place. Are there any comments and questions on the proposed budget revision or the CCKM current expenditure? Hearing nothing. Next slide, please. Okay, well, that brings us pretty much to the end of our agenda. I had Ludovic on the agenda for closing remarks. I understand he's not here. He's moved to another meeting. So I'd invite Ines to take the floor on behalf of UNEP.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Thank you, colleagues. First, I want to thank our colleagues in the Pacific, considering the time difference allow me to right, I think I'm back. Sorry about that.
You froze just for a second, Ines. So yeah, go ahead again.
Sorry about that. Thank you to colleagues in the Pacific. Thank you, Melanie, for chairing the meeting very smoothly. It's been great to see all of the solutions that are provided by the global project. It's also been great to get updates from all of the child projects. It's important for SIDS, considering that many of the issues are common and considering that the spirit of the program is to have an integrated approach, to also be able to engage with these solutions that are provided, to also be able to apply them and share the solutions between the regions. I think it's very important, particularly as now the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic project will also be coming into execution, hopefully towards the end of the year. So it's been very useful to learn about all of the solutions provided, particularly online. I think the websites and the iGo are going to come in particularly handy for the SMEs and SIDS. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to meet many of the partners. You'll be seeing, I think, plenty of me also as I'm supporting the implementation of islands across the board in UNEP, and will be a task manager for Islands Atlantic. So thank you very much. Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks very much, Ines. And I might just hand the floor individually to each of the implementing agencies before we sign off for today. So I'll take them in alphabetical order. So Oksana, shall I hand to you?
Do we want to say a word? Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to say that FEO part was really designed within the Caribbean Child Project. However, we would be looking forward for finding also the links in Pacific and Indian Ocean. So we hope that what will have to be done in Caribbean region can be very much useful for Indian Ocean and for Pacific. Perhaps there's only one small remark which I would like to say is that BCRC Caribbean has been presenting in the gave in presentation and information about linkages to the activities which is happening around. And I think it's a lesson learned also from our side that we cannot expect the executing agency to pull this alone. So it's very much important, I guess, also from the side of the implementing agency to facilitate these links. And this is something important, I guess, also for the transition from one region to another, because throughout these co-financing projects or throughout that projects which are in relation, that is also the streams where it goes. That's it from our side. I thank you very much, colleagues. We're looking forward for our cooperation.
Thanks, Oksana. Herman, can I pass over to you from the IDP's perspective? Louise, I don't hear Herman. Shall I pass to you alternatively?
Yeah, Herman is out because he has to attend to another meeting. Sorry. But in our case, we just wonder how we can integrate experience from different areas in the sense, for instance, terms of reference, kind of same special challenge that you have for each region so that we can integrate that learning lessons into our approach, you know? That's basically my main comment. And I'd really be happy to be working with this kind of projects. You know, it's quite nice, complex situation, but it seems to me that it's a good approach. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Louise. And yes, just to confirm, we did receive your comment about sharing the TORs. So that's something that we'll institutionalize at CCQM. We do receive all of the terms of reference from the regional child project. So we'll set up an email list that includes the implementing agency and executing agency focal points and routinely share the TORs. So that way we don't have to repeat things and we can learn from each other's approaches. I think that's a really useful and pragmatic suggestion. So thank you very much for that. Charlotte, shall I pass to you from UNDP's side? Charlotte, are you there? I guess Charlotte isn't there. Well, in that case, I think we've heard from all of the implementing agencies now. Sprep, would you like to say a few words before we sign off, and then I'll pass to BCRC?
Thanks, Mel, and thank you everybody for the opportunity to be part of this meeting. Yeah, just like everybody else, we have our challenges which are not peculiar to us. Seeing the presentation from the other two child projects, we can certainly relate to a lot of those challenges, and we are grateful that we do have CCKM who has offered to institutionalize the sharing of resources. Over here, we do have the same difficulties with going to market, finding the right people, and so it takes a while, and so we are grateful that with the sharing of resources, that can at least speed up our tendering and improve our turnaround times for especially the drawing up of technical documents that make up a part of the bidding document. So very happy to have been part of the meeting, and looking forward to more collaborations, particularly with the exciting iGo, as well as the Tide Challenge app. And yeah, we're quite excited for what the holds for us. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Josh. And to Josh and Edward, thank you so much for doing the late night shift. We know it's not easy, but we do very much appreciate it. BCRC, shall I hand over to you, Jewel?
I don't have much to add. I think I don't want to belabor the meeting. Sorry, I have to look this way. You all are this way. So yeah, it's been a great pleasure to share with each other. I am interested in this iGo, this new development that you all are talking about, and I just really maybe we can see how best we can continue to communicate through CCKM with each other as well, especially now that things are happening in the Indian Ocean side. It'll be good to know what's happening there and how we can assist them as well with what we've done already, both in the Pacific and the Caribbean. So it's been a pleasure, and it's good to see everyone as well. And thanks again to those who are in a really difficult time zone. And good night to you as well. And good day to all, yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Jewel. And I think you're right. It has been great to be able to share today, and we'll give some thought at CCKM about how we can further facilitate that sharing on a more regular basis between implementing agencies and executing agencies across the region. So thank you again, everybody. We've managed to finish on time and within the time frame, so well done. It's been wonderful to hear from everybody and to learn from each other. So thank you for your time. Thanks to the CCKM team for their presentations. We look forward to being in contact soon. We are hoping to have a meeting in the sidelines of the BRS COP, some sort of program working group meeting as we did at last BRS COP. So we'll be in contact shortly with some proposed dates on that. Obviously, as we all know, we don't get to decide the room or dates at COP, so we'll need to have a little bit of flexibility, but we'll do our best to secure something, and we'll be in contact with news on that soon. So thanks again, everybody. Oh, Jewel.
Yeah, I'm so glad you saw me. Speaking of COP, are we doing a side event for islands?
So this COP, islands won't be having a side event. We're going to be waiting until the next COP when we've got some results to show before we have the next side event.
Okay.
But we will have a working group meeting for both countries, IAs and EAs while we're there to ensure that we don't waste the opportunity.
Okay, and stay in touch with us on the date for that meeting in Geneva, because we may leave earlier.
Okay.
So we could appreciate any courtesies extended to us.
Yeah, we'll begin working on that in the next week.
So we don't have to carry the islands banners.
No, you don't need to carry those banners. No.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Sleep well, Edward and Josh, and we'll speak.
Is it far away?
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.